Looks to come inside and fire one a goal and find the back of the net for Perth.
And the Azzurri have come back from 2 goals down to tie it up.
Cue the celebrations for the Azzurri.
Yeah, welcome to another edition of the Perth SC podcast. Great to have you with us once again, albeit a little bit different looking podcast this week due to a few things happening behind the scenes. Just a big thank you once again to Lydia Fiore and the team at the Panorama Club, Perth's premier private members club and luxury workspace, and also Camera House in Leederville, your go-to destination for Leederville and the wider Perth creative community, providing expert advice and a comprehensive range of photography and video equipment. Once again, a big thanks to Lydia Fiore for his ongoing support of us here at the Perth SC podcast. A little bit of a different look. I did mention that just briefly. We will just to hear a little bit of an interview that I actually did earlier with a former Perth SC player. Jackson Lee is currently doing his thing over there in America at the moment. Now, I did record this thanks to our producers at Perspective Productions. So a little bit of a rehash, but an interesting conversation nonetheless, and I think you'll get plenty out of it. Just quickly, before we get into that, just a few announcements coming out of the club. Don't forget, our 200 Club raffle is back. Tickets $200, of course, which goes towards sponsoring the club and supporting the club, of course. $3,000 up for grabs if you grab yourself a ticket. So a nice little investment there if you can come up a winner there. Tickets will include your 2026 membership and a spot at our exclusive function before our last home game of the season against Olympic Kingsway at Dorrien Gardens. For more info on that, you can visit perthsc.com.au or simply give the office a call, 93282474. We've also got our club quiz night. That is all happening on August the 8th. If you haven't yet booked yourself a table, make sure you do that. Plenty of great prices on offer and always a good bit of fun and banter. Other club quiz nights. We've also got a wine fundraiser, of course, through our partners at Borello Vineyards. Each six-pack sold raises money for our club to reinvest in our football programs. If you'd like to make an order, simply use the code Perth Soccer Club, all one word, all lowercase, at the checkout, and that way you can receive that club discount. And also, don't forget, our club is available for hire for your next events. We do offer key discounts for club members. So if you've got a birthday coming up, a significant event, it might be a sundowner for work, whatever it might look like, get in touch with the committee or give the office a call. As mentioned, 93282474. Give them a buzz during office hours, and I'm sure the wonderful office staff will do their best to be able to accommodate that. There is a 4,000 capacity for only those really large events, 500-seat grandstand, of course. There is the lighting available on the field, or a number of fantastic rooms that we do offer here at Dorrien Gardens, which can be available for hire as well. So worth considering if you've got an event that you're planning. It might be a wedding, whatever it might be. Yeah, get in touch with the office there. Let's get into that chat. As I said, it is a little bit of a rehash chat that I did for our producing company. In fact, in Perspective Productions. If you do require any audio or podcasting requirements, get in touch with us, and I'm sure we'll be able to sort something out. And providing all kinds of audio solutions, including podcasts and everything else like that. So get in touch with us if it is something that you are considering at the moment. Right, let's get into this chat. Jackson Lee joined us from over there at Rhode Island FC, chatting about his time coming through the WA junior ranks, Perth Soccer Club, of course, Perth Glory, and, just a little bit on his journey. Let's take that all in now. Delighted to be joined by Jackson Lee, former Perth Glory youth player, Perth SC player, played a bit of time at Bayswater City as well. So it's great to have Jackson on board. Jackson, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Mate, first of all, just reflecting back, your junior journey back here in WA. Obviously, I did mention a bit of time with the Perth Glory youth predominantly. You spent a bit of time with Perth SC. Mate, what are some of your fond memories?
Great memories. Obviously, like you said, it's my home. Grew up there. Like you said, spent most of my time with Perth Glory in the youth setup there in the academy, and bits and pieces with the first team. And then some time at Perth Soccer Club before and after that as well. I think just the journey through the academy with some of the younger guys and working our way up to the first team and being around the first team, Walter Scott, Jacob Italiano, some of these guys that have now gone on to do bigger and better things. Just the journey that we had there and the environment that we had just day in, day out working. That's some really, really fond memories. And, good to see where they've gone. And it's always nice to look back on those times as well, just to sort of feel where I came from and at my home as well. I always have a very, very close connection to Glory and to Perth Soccer Club as well. Bayswater towards the end as well, but more so the latter. But no, really, really good times and really good fond memories.
Mate, do you keep up with many of the boys, or do you try and stay in touch?
Yeah. I mean, we live in a world today that we can. It's super easy to and super convenient. So being able to keep up with them and see how they're going is really important. Probably don't do it as much as I should, but every now and again, I definitely try and check in because I feel like those are good connections to have and really just to keep the friendship going, I think, moving forward.
As a young goalkeeper, obviously, roster spots are rare. It's just the nature of being a goalkeeper. How difficult was it finding game time in not only those youth years, but as you wanted to progress your career?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. The goalkeeper position, only one person plays. So it's definitely tough. But I think that also really lights a fire underneath you. And I think a lot of goalkeepers will say this as well. It just sort of drives you a little bit more, makes it more tangible, like a real something to grab hold of and to keep a hold of as well. It's the same the whole way up the ladder. Opportunities are few and far between, but you got to make sure you're ready when you get them. And I felt like I did that to the best of my ability in Perth, and it's helped me to continue to do that over here in the States. But it definitely builds you mentally, I think, because it's tough not being in the squad. It's tough being a number 2 or a number 3 and having to fight for that position. But it's also good to learn. Obviously, to spend some time with the first team and learning from guys like Tanda Valafi and Lampretti. Really, really experienced guys. So you got to sort of take the pros and cons with it all and hopefully start to create your own personal brand and sort of the way you play as best as you can moving forward.
Was that a big part of the reason that you did decide to take the US college system path? Or was just the game time and the opportunities?
Yeah, I think game time as a goalkeeper is the most valuable thing, especially as a young goalkeeper. I think game time is the most experiential and the best way to learn. So I think for me, that was one of the big reasons, being able to come over here and play consistent games year round versus being at home. The MPL is the MPL in Perth. It's an okay standard, but I think where I was in the academy setup at Glory, it was sort of, I felt I had plateaued a little bit. And I feel honestly it just needed to change more than anything. But I think the game time was a big reason to come over here, and just such frequent opportunities to play over here was a really big calling card. And I think that's helped me grow since I've come over here for sure.
It's obviously now it's a well-trodden path, but it's becoming bigger and bigger, that US college pathway. Was there a particular reason you went down that track rather than maybe an Asia or a Europe or elsewhere?
Yeah, it was definitely a newer thing when I was sort of looking at it as a possibility. I was born in the States, so I have a US passport, which makes that doorway a little bit more open. I don't have to take up visa spots. I don't have to do anything like that from an international standpoint. So it made it a little bit more accessible for someone like me, and that was a little bit of a reason, because it's less barrier to entry than, say, Europe or Asia. But I think also the ability to get a degree whilst also pursuing my career was also a big calling card. I think that was something that was instilled into me from a young age, with some good parenting, just sort of understanding that football doesn't last forever, and having something to fall back on after or even during, because the life of a footballer is very one-dimensional. It's very football. So having something to do on the side or just to distract you at times was a big reason. I think being able to pursue the professional dream, which ultimately was what I wanted to do from day dot and the whole way through. But while also getting a degree was one of the main reasons to come over here, which it's paid dividends. I feel like I've learned a lot. I feel like I have something useful to add to the world outside of football, which is a positive thing. But I think it's put me in good stead and set me up for the future for sure.
Your first stop over in the States was George Mason in Virginia. How did that initial move come about?
Initially, it was an agency in Australia that had contacted me about pursuing the States and pursuing college over there. They have certain connections in the States and have links with colleges. And from there, they sort of asked me whether it was something I wanted to pursue, and it was. And then they sent my tape out to different coaches and different colleges, and then started to have discussions with them and figure out where the best opportunity was for me to play immediately, because that's not often a thing over here in college. Being a freshman coming in and starting is not always promised, especially as a goalkeeper. So being in a place where I knew I was going to start, but also in a program where I thought that I could make a difference and really, really start to change and turn the program around. That was, George Mason was that opportunity. They had a new coach in, and a brand new set of players. So it was maybe not the premier destination, but certainly was a good entryway to the US college system, I felt.
You said you were born in the US, so a little bit of a connection to the States. Was there still a little bit of culture shock and everything when you got on the ground and it all started to sink in?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I left the States when I was super young, not more than a year old. So I don't remember anything of it. And I've had trips back since then, but it's different when you live here for sure. So there was definitely a culture shock. And then you also have the added thing of just being on your own and being away from your family and your friends. So that was honestly a little bit more of a culture shock than the US experience. But definitely a bit of a change from Perth.
And I guess being the Aussie guy on campus, mate, was that a bit of a novelty for everyone? I've noticed when I've been in the States myself, it's people love to have a chat with Aussies.
Yeah, no, it is. And it has been the whole way through. I mean, when I came over here, there was 2 other Aussies on my team. So we sort of all butted together and it was really, really good. But I think, the novelty's worn off for me. It wore off pretty quickly. I got pretty tired of telling people how to say how many kangaroos there are. Like that. But it's cool. I mean, it's definitely makes it easier for me to talk to people and people interested. So that's always good.
Mate, you mentioned the academic side. What are you studying over there, mate? Or what have you been looking into?
So I studied marketing in college, so mainly business stuff, but I've always been sort of interested in that sort of commerce business area.
Sure.
And it's probably what I would have gone into had I stayed in Perth and probably studied commerce. But I think it's just a very broad base for me to have. It's very translatable into a bunch of different areas, and having an understanding of business is important in all facets of life, whether you go into the workforce or whatever. I think it's just very important to have an understanding of how businesses work and how things are presented to you, especially in marketing for sure.
From George Mason, you moved, not too far down the road across to West Virginia University. I'm pretty sure a university that's much more renowned for its American football in that area than probably soccer, mate. And how did you see that side of it?
It was definitely more renowned for football and for basketball as well. It was a bit of a change. It was honestly another culture shock. Being in Virginia with George Mason in a pretty affluent neighborhood, pretty good academics, not a massive school, not a massive sporting school. So then going to West Virginia in the middle of the country, well, not the middle of the country, but in terms of where it is in the mountains and stuff like that, completely different. It's incredible. The stadium for the football, the stadium for the basketball. It's it's unreal. I think that's the only. I mean, it's not the only college in the West Virginia, but it's definitely the biggest college in West Virginia. And there's no professional sports in West Virginia, so West Virginia University is these guys' lives. These people's lives. They come out, they tailgate, they stay for the whole weekend. If there's a football game, 60,000 people every football game, and these guys are going to school, going to classes after games, and it's crazy compared to back home where you barely sell out A-League games or footy games that have 55,000 people, but these guys are the top of the athletes in Australia, and you compare these to just the college guys. So it's pretty crazy, and the facilities were a joke. It's unlike anything I've seen in my professional career, and likely I'll see again depending on where I go. But it's I was super fortunate, but again, it was a big culture shock.
On the field, what were the big primary differences you felt from, playing NPL to going over into this college system, mate? Playing style, physicality, approach to the game. What did you find the fundamental differences were?
I think it's an interesting thing to compare the NPL, especially WA NPL, to the college game. I think that in general, it's a lot younger. Mainly because it's young college guys versus some older guys in the NPL that have been there for a while and sort of just hanging on to their career sort of thing. I think physically is probably a little bit less demanding in terms of how physical the Australian game is, and I think that translates into A-League and not just the NPL. I think Australia's game is very physical, but I think the pace of it was a lot quicker. I think it's a lot more technical, a lot more tactical. Maybe not glory at youth NPL because that was obviously very tactical and technical, but I think NPL as a whole is relatively void of major tactics compared to maybe the college game. But I think those were maybe the differences, and I think the speed, it was just a lot quicker for sure.
Sure. You had a little bit of time and a big experience playing at a little bit more of a professional level when you got a chance with Villagers SC in the USL League 2, mate. How did you find that experience?
It was good. I think the USL League 2 is a good opportunity to get more games under the belt, especially over that summer period. It's filled with mostly college guys. It's classed as semi-professional, but it's a good way to get more games under your belt and also to experience a different part of the country. I hadn't been down to Orlando where the Villagers are. Again, a culture shock. Like the US is so different wherever you go. That was really, really cool to experience that. But I met some really, really good people down there, had some really good games, played against some good competition. We played against River Plate during their preseason tour, so that was really cool and a good experience to get some exposure there. But again, it's just like building blocks the whole way through wherever you go. And I think it was a really, really good opportunity to get more games, I think.
The US system, mate, just before we move on to a couple of other things, I do find it quite convoluted. It's hard to work out where everything fits with everything else rather than just a structured tier system. It's a debate that we're having here in Australia. It's been going on forever about that pyramid, if you like. Is that conversation still front and center over there in the US?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it is a bit of a convoluted system. I think it's silly at times how it's structured, but basically the MLS is the MLS and they're their own separate entity. They have no connection to anyone. That's their own thing. And then you have the USL Championship, which is where I play. And then you have a tier system below that, which is USL 1, which is also professional, and then USL 2. And then below that, you have a bunch of other semi-professional, amateur leagues that are all scattered about, but there's no promotion relegation throughout any of those. We're talking about going into some promotion relegation in the USL, which is good. Having a sort of premier league triangular structure like the Aussies are trying to do right now. But it is confusing, mate. It's confusing. But it is what it is. That's the system, and that's sort of just how we got to go about it. It's the same in Australia. Like, that's just how it is.
And the draft system, mate, I'm going to take you back to last year, of course, selected by Los Angeles, and obviously a huge brand in world football currently. The draft experience, mate, are you a fan or obviously that's a huge thing in AFL terms down under, but and American terms, but not so much in traditional football terms.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, again, it's a little bit convoluted and maybe misinterpreted for sure. I think initially my thoughts about the draft were, okay, this is the same as the NBA draft or the NFL draft. Once you get drafted, you go on with the team. That's it. You're sweet. You got a contract. But that's not the reality of it. The draft is a glorified trial period. So what the draft is basically, you come for preseason with us. I mean, obviously there could be exclusions to this. Teams can really like you and sign you beforehand, but for the most part, it's a trial. And if they like you, then they'll sign you. If they don't, then you go somewhere else. So it's an interesting thing. Obviously, I'm super fortunate to be drafted by LAFC, and I'm very thankful that occurred. But obviously, I chose a different path, and I think the path I chose, again, a little bit untrodden and less chosen, but I think it's paid off for me. But it's definitely an interesting one, because you have on one hand all the shiny stuff, the MLS, wow, I got drafted, but then you have the reality of it. It's like, okay, there's nothing guaranteed here. There's nothing tangible. Like, I could go and trial with them, and then by March comes around and I haven't signed, and then they get rid of me. But then there's no other teams that need a goalkeeper, and they get sort of stuck up a creek without a you're like, okay, now what? So you sort of got to play the long game at times, and honestly, these are not easy decisions to make at all. But I'm very fortunate that I put people around me to help me make these decisions, and I'm not by myself making these decisions. So it was definitely an enlightening experience for me, an eye-opening one for sure.
Was that the reason that you kind of chose the Rhode Island path? Was that security?
A little bit, yeah. It was security, but also the opportunity to play men's football as well.
Sure.
I think the realistic picture of the MLS would have been I would have been with the second team, which, from what I had heard, had gotten a lot younger. And for me, I thought it would have been a step back from where I was. Obviously, you have opportunities to train with the first team and whatever. And obviously, if I felt really confident in my ability, then I would push and hopefully sign a first team deal. But the reality is that's not likely. So I think a big calling card was the opportunity to play men's football, and have something tangible and something serious on the line every week, and you're playing for a livelihood as opposed to playing in the academy, and which, again, like I said, would feel like a step back. But it was. I really liked the opportunity that Rhode Island presented and the project that they presented. You don't often get to be a part of something that's brand new, but I think that was a big reason that I chose that over LAFC.
And March last year, you made your debut for Rhode Island, mate. Even getting in with the cheeky assist, if I'm not mistaken. There, what do you recall about that particular experience, mate? Professional debut for Rhode Island.
It was great. It was, like I said before, it's one of those things. You're number two. You got to be ready to take your opportunity when it occurs, because you never know when it's going to happen. And that was second or third game of the year. 70 minutes into a game, and you get thrown in, and the wind is straight into your head, and you've got to see out a result. And it was quite literally thrown into the fire, but that's how it happened, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. It was a really, really good experience. And then obviously next game, going into Tampa and getting an assist was also very cool. But it's the harsh reality of football. We won against Tampa, and it's just like a bit of a change. But that's how it is. You gotta get there quick, and you gotta adjust quick, because, like you said, opportunities go past you in the blink of an eye if you don't take them.
Mate, this season you're sitting in 10th in that conference. Probably not where you want to be as far as the team so far. A 0-0 on the weekend, mate. How are you seeing where the team's going?
Yeah, it's not at all where we want to be. That's for sure, and that's been the same the whole season. We haven't really found what we had towards the end of last year, which has been frustrating for us as players. I mean, as a club as a whole, coaching staff, backroom staff, everyone's not happy with where we're at, and we're well aware of that. But I think we're all really trying to follow the same direction, and I think that it's very easy in these moments to sort of become disconnected and become maybe blaming the people, and finger pointing becomes really easy. So I think we've done a really good job at staying together and still pulling towards the same goal. But I think we're not far off it. And we had a similar season last year, not a very quick start, and then we started to get hot, and then inevitably won the Eastern Conference and made the final. So we all know that that's still a possibility. The season's not over until it's over, and we're all hopeful, and we believe that we can turn the season around. There's still time, and we feel like that we're not far off where we need to be.
And that competition for that number one spot there at the moment, mate, you've been in and out of that side. What's the relationship like, and I guess between you guys, and how fierce is that competition for that number one spot?
It's good. We've got a really good goalkeeper group here, good goalkeeper coach, and it's a really, really good competitive group from all the guys, not just me and Koke, who's the other guy that's played the games this year.
Yep.
From all the guys in the room, it's really competitive, but it's a healthy competition. We're pushing each other every day. Really, really supportive of each other, whoever plays. But I think that's only positive. I think we're all competing for the same spot, and the standard inevitably has to go up. And I think that's shown. I think we've been really, really good defensively, and I think as goalkeeper group as a whole, we've really improved since last year. So if you take that, that's a really good positive. And I think if we do our job, then we're giving ourselves the best opportunity to succeed on the pitch.
Obviously, you do play in that Eastern Conference, and you're all over that kind of southeast corner, if you like, of the United States, mate. Do you come across many other Aussies on your travels?
A few. There's a few Aussies around the league, and I see Aussies out and about here and there, but it's very few and far between. I think I know most of the Aussies in the league. A few guys from Glory, obviously, and had played of Glory. Actually, there's actually a lot. There's 4 or 5 guys that have played at Glory that are now in the USL. But it's always nice to see a familiar face, even guys that I've never met before, but are Australian. There's always a connection there. That's always nice. You always get a little slice of home, being on the other side of the world, I should say. So that's a really, really good thing. But no, I wish there was more. In all honesty.
I was just going to say, I think there's Giordano Colli's over there at the moment. Who else have we got over there at the moment?
Pacific Nyongabir is at Tampa.
Sure.
You have Luka Ivanovic, Jacob Muir, Zach Duncan.
Yep.
All guys that have played for Glory. I'm sure there's some more that I'm missing out. There's a few other Aussies at other clubs. I think there's another one that plays with Gio at Tulsa. I forget his name, but there's a few.
Yeah,
which is good.
Mate, do you keep up with the Australian game and what's happening, I guess, with the A-League or the Socceroos, and maybe a little bit in the NPL? Of course, you've still got family here, which I'm sure keep you a little bit updated from time to time.
Yeah, definitely the Socceroos. I think more than anything, seeing some guys that I know now making it into the team makes it a little bit more attractive to me to follow. But NPL is hard. I think the whole picture's changed since I was there, so don't have a ton of connections. Instead with Glory, I mean, when I came back over the Christmas period, I went there and there was a few guys that I knew, but again, the picture's changed incredibly. But I think it's hard for me to keep touch and certainly watch the games, which ultimately is what I want to do. I want to watch the games. I want to be there. I want to see what's happening, but it's tough. And I try and stay updated as much as I can on the socials for sure.
We did mention a little bit of family there, mate. How crucial has the support from your family been, mate, on your journey?
Oh, it's been incredibly important. I think I wouldn't have got to where I am and progressed how I have without them. They've done a really, really good job of staying in contact, and it's similar to how I was saying before. We live in a time now where my family's a finger tap away if I need them. So it's really, really good to have that accessibility to talk to them whenever, and they've done an amazing job of traveling over here almost every year. So that's been great, and I've tried my best to get home as much as I can. But it's unreal. I have a really good support and framework to help me be myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Similarly, it's quite hard for Australians to keep up with what's happening over there in the US, especially, a polar opposite kind of time zone and everything else like that. Mate, what are some of the misconceptions do you feel there is for Australians about the US system, or about US soccer as they call it?
I think the perception of US soccer, not just in Australia, but I think worldwide, is that it's a bit of a Mickey Mouse league, similar to how the A-League's perceived. And it's not very serious. And I think it's completely misconstrued. I think the MLS is one of the world's greatest, outside of Europe, one of the best leagues in the world. I think it's super, super competitive. And it's super, super attractive to watch. The USL is also very competitive, obviously a step down from the MLS. But I would say the USL is probably a little bit below the A-League, but far and above the NPL. So I think it's a really, really competitive league. And I think that it just gets a bad rap as a whole, which I don't agree with at all. I think it's a really, really good breeding ground for football. And obviously with Messi coming into the MLS, it's only boosted. You have the Club World Cup this year, the FIFA World Cup next year. I think it's a really, really good opportunity for football to grow in this country, and to grow more. I think the women's team has done a tremendous job. The US women's national team, women's football's boosting and growing over here every day. And hopefully the men's game is growing as well. But I've just seen a ton of growth in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been here. And it's going to be exponential in the next couple of years as well.
I guess there's a lot of similarities as well, particularly in the sporting landscape of Australia and the US. They're very, very similar. There's bigger codes than football here that we've got to battle with, and the fight for facilities and everything else like that. Am I right in saying that, from someone who's on the ground over there?
I would think from a supporters' perspective, yes, and certainly TV rights as well. You're battling against the NFL, you're battling against the NBA, you're battling against ice hockey, baseball. Honestly, probably more codes than there is in Australia. But I think from a facilities perspective, from an accessibility perspective, I think that it's a little bit better over here, just because it's so big. There's so much money over here. Versus being in Australia, it's very isolated. There's not as much land available. There's not as much facilities. Not really readily available. You don't have government funding. So I think there's a lot more money over here in the football world, which is good, because the facilities are great all the way down. So I think that's a big positive, and I think it makes it a little bit easier to be not at the premier level, not at the MLS. If you have USL Championship is underneath, but I think we've got incredible facilities that would rival the A-League. The A-League, I don't know where Perth Glory is based out of now, but I don't think they have a home yet.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
it just shows you it's not really the same in terms of funding over here compared to back home, and it's not the same in every club. Certainly, there's clubs in my league over here that don't have as nice as facilities as me, but there's also clubs that have way better facilities than you do. So there's levels the whole way through, and that's the same over here.
What are the future ambitions, mate, for Jackson Lee over the next short to medium to long term, mate? Is there aspirations to do other things in the football world?
Yeah, definitely. Continue to grow as a player. I think first and foremost, I think that's number one right now, especially being a young goalkeeper. I think goalkeepers can play up into their 40s, ready at glory. He's a really good example, really good professional that stayed and he's still playing.
Yep.
Which is incredible to me. So really, really good role model to have, but it just shows you how young I am in the goalkeeper sphere. So being able to grow, I think, is really important, and to continue to climb the mountain until the peak of the next one. So for me, that looks like MLS in the next couple of years, continuing to play games and to get more games under my belt, and then start to grow my profile a little bit over here, and start to sort of build more confidence and more consistency, and start to step the ladder up, the football ladder over here, and continue. And ideally, I mean, future, soccer is still an ambition for me. It's always on the table. Being able to get a taste of it at under 18th level, at 17th level was great, and that's still a super ambition of mine. Seeing Ciccardi, someone that I grew up with and played with, have the success that he's had in Italy and now on the international level is such an inspiration to me. So that's really lit a fire under my belly as well to continue to do that, to still have that goal in mind. But yeah, just to keep enjoying it. I mean, that's ultimately why we play, is because we enjoy it. And it's sometimes easy to get lost in the thick of it and in the fast football nature that it is. But being able to stay present and stay happy and stay enjoying it throughout it all is number one always.
Just on that international side of things, mate, is there contact with the national setup and yourself? Is there many? I mean, do the guys from the outside looking in, and I'm probably wrong with this, but it almost seems like it's a little bit forgotten, some of the guys over there compared to some of the talent that's in Europe.
Yeah, I haven't had any contact with them. I don't necessarily know if there has been any sort of outside viewership of the US, and like you said, it's not really accessible as much compared to Europe, or there's not many eyes on it, which just is the nature of it. And honestly, I'm not too worried about who's watching and who's not watching, because I think you can get lost in that really easily and get caught up in it. So I think for me, the focus is just keep doing what I'm doing and keep trying to grow myself as a footballer without worrying about all that. And then if things happen, they happen. And if not, they don't.
Finally, mate, before we let you go, mate, what message would you have for any young footballers that might be listening to this podcast or considering heading over to the US, or might even be a goalkeeper, mate, and looking for a pathway?
I think for me, in the decision-making process, weighing up the pros and cons is a super important thing. And I think that goes for everything in life, not just making football decisions. So being able to sit down and list out the pros and cons of every decision you make, and especially when it's something as big as moving to the other side of the world, I think is really, really important. But I think at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said before. Being able to enjoy the sport you grow up playing and pursue it at any level is a great thing. So I think having that in your frame of mind and being the priority number one, I think for me is the best piece of advice that I could give. But yeah, enjoy the life that I live. I mean, I live in a tremendously privileged life, being able to play football for a living. And that's not wasted on me. I think I am very fortunate and recognize that every day. So I just continue to enjoy it. That's what I'll say.
Jackson, thanks very much, mate. You've been very generous with your time, and I'll let you get off to bed.
Thank you, Blaine. I appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, wonderful chat there with Jackson Lee. Great to catch up with him. Plenty of fond memories from right here at Dorrien Gardens and doing his thing in the WA football landscape. Now going on to bigger and better things, and certainly wishing him all the best moving forward. Right, let's take a quick look ahead to the weekend. We do have some big fixtures coming up. We're back here at Dorrien Gardens on Saturday afternoon as our NPL senior men's team, they get set to host Armidale. So another important fixture, and despite everything that's going on, just really important that the boys finish on a bit of a high as they get through these last few matches of the season. Very much looking forward to being down here and taking plenty of that in. Prior to that, of course, our 23s at 1 p.m. and of course, before that, our 18s men at 11. So get down here, make a day of it, and should be another great afternoon of football here at Dorrien Gardens. For our senior women's team, well, they'll be just down the road there at Subiaco at Rosalie Park. 4 matches to go for our senior women's side. So ultimately, 3 points are a must with them being the hunted at the moment, and maybe just looking over their shoulder just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit. 3 points up for grabs as they take on Subiaco on Sunday. That is a 3:45 kickoff down there at Rosalie, and of course prior to that will be our women's 21s. Right, we're going to wrap things up there. Big thanks to everyone for their ongoing support. Don't forget to tell everyone about the Perth SC podcast, now available on Spotify, on Apple and YouTube Music. Good luck to all of our sides in action on the weekend, and come on the Azuri.